And the one funny thing about Don Mattingly is that he's one of the players that when you think he's a Hall of Famer, you think he's a Hall of Famer. He's not.
Yeah, he should be, but he's
not. 340 at lifetime, some crazy average, 329 lifetime average, something like that. But with the analytics stuff now, people doesn't mean anything now. Versus back in the day when you had Pete Incaviglia and Steve Boboni and Canseco and these guys who didn't hit for high averages sometimes. Canseco hit for average sometimes, but Pete Incaviglia he'll hit you 30. He's gonna strike out 112 times.
But that's a name. That's a name that no one's talking about right now.
Man, I know the game. I'm a historian of the game. Like I was a great player. Why get I got the story everybody else got, but it's one of those things where if you don't know the history, it's like at some point the stuff is going to retrace, and your lack of knowledge is going to hurt you when these people wind up in the Hall of Fame. When they have to reassess baseball and who gets into the Hall of Fame and who doesn't, Don Mattingly is going to be one of those people that wind up getting in. He was hurt most by the steroid era due to the fact that he didn't put up the big home run numbers, but he hit for average. He had one of the best gloves ever. Yes. Mark Grace won't get in, but just looking at the game and how it's progressed, you got think about this. 1989, there's a very important player from 1989 who's not in the Hall of Fame, who should be, and you can get his cards relatively cheap right now. Hit 500 home runs.
89 for Sammy Sosa?
No, Gary Sheffield.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Now Gary Sheffield never failed no drug test, but the thing with him, he was he was an a-hole.
But there was some allegations between him and Bonds. But
this is the problem. Let me tell you a quick little story. So I was playing baseball in 1996. I was playing at Graham in 1997, 1998. I hadn't started lifting weights yet. I was 185 during fall ball. Now during fall ball, Grambling State we had the best pitching staff in the SWAC.
Okay.
I hit 37 home runs in fall ball off the best pitching staff in the SWAC. Everybody's like, I'm out of here. He is not going to be here. Like, there's no way he's getting drafted. Like, everybody, I could run, I could throw, I could hit with anybody. Everybody just thought I was gone. Over the summer, I come back, I'm 215, right?
Yep.
And I remember everybody's looking like, J. Mike, they drug test, right? And I was like, why are you asking? Why are you telling me that? You know what I'm saying?
Everybody think you're on something?
Think I'm on something, but I just hit my growth spurt, like in terms of size. And I remember hitting baseballs and the way the ball came off the bat was just so different. People used to say, that kid's on something. Like, it's something. And I remember the coach telling me, he's like, listen, Jason, I don't know what the hell you went and did over the summer, but he said, just know they do drug tests. I was like, man, why is everybody saying? He's like, look how big you got. And I was like, you know I'm Little Mike, right? He was like, I said, my dad is 6'4", 350. I'm Little Mike. This is what's destined to happen. You know what I'm saying? So I was 215, and people thought I was a freak of nature. You know what I'm saying? Like, they had never seen something like I could jump from the free throw line, all that stuff. But in terms of on the baseball field, you didn't see people like 220, 225 who could run, throw, do all that stuff. Yeah. So I remember people just look at you and say you're on drugs. So people are associating people like, oh, he worked out in the off season with Barry Bonds, so he must be on steroids. Now, to be honest with you, from what I was told, I've trained I'm a personal trainer by trade, and I've worked with some agents and people who are in, who are in the know.
Yes.
Most of the guys who you think were on steroids were on steroids.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that it went on. Baseball promoted it. Chicks dig the long ball. The managers knew it. Everyone knew what was going on. It's like now you turn the back. Jose Canseco would have tested the 500 home run theory, because at the time, no one in baseball had ever hit 500 home runs and not been inducted into the Hall of Fame. True. Jose Canseco was right at the cusp of hitting 500, and they made him leave. Just like Alex Rodriguez. He finished with 696 home runs. You think Alex Rodriguez wouldn't have came back and hit 4 more home runs?
Well, the Yankees front office told him you'll never hit 700 in the Yankee uniform.
But think about it. You don't think there was a deal set up? He's going to be the first one to get in from the steroid era. He's in the media. People like him. That BS with Big Papi shouldn't have got in since everybody else got in. But he got in because he's such a nice person. He's a bubbly guy. Barry Bonds, not so bubbly. You know what I'm saying? So I think A-Rod said, listen, I'm going to walk away from baseball. Y'all got to let me in. And I think that's why he stopped when he stopped, so that there's a backdoor deal where he's going to get into the Hall of Fame because he's doing the Major League Baseball stuff. He's good on television, and he didn't offend any more people by getting to that next plateau, because all he would have done hitting those next home runs was piss off more people.
That's right. And he even publicly apologized for his involvement,
because he didn't get the chance to really do the live thing in front of the Capitol. You know,
and I know I got a comment here from OG Carscam. He says steroids don't improve hand-eye coordination. That is true, but what steroids do is help you recover in the game. Just like a similar story like J. Mike. When I was in college playing football, a lot of people thought I was taking something, right? And so we had 5 people on the team that got drug tested and was busted for taking steroids.
Mm-hmm.
And all those players had to leave the team. We had one defensive end that was 6'1", 235 pounds and played like an all-pro defensive end on steroids. Off steroids, he was about 185 and very quiet and peaceful and couldn't get anything done. Steroids, a lot of times, is not about how strong you are. It's about how you feel 3 days after that game, 2 days after that game. Do you feel like you're 21 again, or do you still feel like you're 34?
So this is my take on the steroid thing, right? I'm anti-steroids to this day. I compete as a drug-tested power.
That's right. You're a clean athlete.
Clean athlete. Never taken steroids, and I've been 660 pounds. Sounds crazy, right? All right. Everybody thinks I'm on drugs. They're like, you're 44 years old, I turned 45, and you tell me you're benching. I was number 9 in the world last year amongst everybody. I'm the smallest of those people who did it as well. My thing with the steroid thing and what I found with people who are on it, it gives them insane confidence, right? The fact that if you look at the guys who are on steroids or the perceived perception of people who are on them, I think it gives you like liquid courage. Like you're not running from that fastball. You want it to hit you. Hit me. You know what I'm saying? If you're able to stand in there a little bit longer, keep that front shoulder in, you're going to stay on that ball a little bit longer. You're going to hit a few more balls, opposite field home runs. You're going to hit the ball maybe a couple of feet further. Instead of at the warning track, you might get a couple of those out. I think it's more about being indestructible. I think it's that feeling of not caring, like where you're going to take on everybody. Tony Montana, you take on everybody because you're that adrenaline rush. I think that's what steroids did for the most part. Because there were a couple of guys on our baseball team who may have been on stuff and they really weren't that good. You know, you still have to hit the baseball. So, and hitting a baseball is still the hardest thing to do in sport.
Yes,
so there's a couple of combinations that go along with that. If you look at Barry Bonds when he was 185 pounds, Jose Canseco when he was 185 pounds. It's funny that Jose Canseco, if you look at their rookie cards, Jose Canseco was 165, Barry Bonds was 150, Mark McGwire was 185, Sammy Sosa was 150 pounds on their rookie cards.
Yep.
The thing that you see the most is, and the thing with Barry Bonds, he hogged the plate. You could not get the ball in on him. You had to hit him. Then he put the elbow guard on where he just didn't care. He like, hit me. What you gonna do?
And he was leaning into it like.
He leaned into that thing. Like,
rocking it. Yeah.
He wanted you to hit him. And then he was able, Barry Bonds swung a 31 bat.
That's 31 inches and 31
ounces. You know who else? Someone else swung the same exact bat. So it was one other player. Tony Gwynn. And Tony Gwynn choked. They both choked up on the bat. Yeah. So that's how he has such great bat control. You know what I'm saying? So people would always tell you, I don't know, I went to Tony Gwynn, but they should say Tony Gwynn could hit 30, 40 home runs if he wanted to.
I've heard that before.
But he cared about his batting average. Like he was a great player. Everyone said that he's a great person, but they said Tony Gwynn was very aware of his average. Like he really cared about his average. And as a baseball player, you turn it down. So like when you're, when it's in your favor, 2-0, 3-0, you're very aggressive. You're going to go for your shot. But as the count changes, you start thinking, I'm not going home run, I'm going single. Let me hit the ball the other way. Let me bunt to get on. A lot of power players didn't do that. They stay in there. Like Jose Canseco, he's swinging from the hills at 2-1, 3-0, whatever the case is, he's going for it. Gwynn will slap the ball the other way. You know
what I also heard about Tony Gwynn is if he's behind in the count, he'll work his way into getting a walk so it didn't affect his batting average.
But he's a great hitter. You're supposed to do that.
That's
You know,
right.
he had one of the greatest eyes that you ever seen, especially for a left-hander who you couldn't bring a left-hander in for. They didn't bring a left-hander in to go against Tony Gwynn. They'll bring a righty in. And he was such a great hitter. Like, that's actually one of my favorite cards I have. I have his 85 Leaf. It's actually a PSA 8 or something like that, but I love that card. His knowledge of the game. Like, I bought a bunch of his instructional videos because he knew the game so well, man. Like, he really understood the game. Like, that's the thing. Like, with Derek Jeter's the most overrated player of all time. But
I've heard this many times. Yeah.
But if my son played baseball, I would want him to play the game like Derek Jeter.
Are you saying sportsmanship, the way he carried himself?
Everything. Even off the field. He had all the women. Nobody really knew about it. He kept it discreet, never got in trouble. Like, he handled himself like a gentleman. But in terms of a ball player, how many years was he ever the best shortstop in baseball? I can't name a year where he was the best shortstop in baseball. You had Nomar, you had the boy from Tejada.
Mm-hmm.
You had Tejada. You had A-Rod with Nomar, Tejada, A-Rod. Then if you want to say, well, defensively, he really wasn't a great. He should have moved to second base, but he wasn't going to move to second base.
No, he wasn't.
Because I was just, he stepped down small. He wasn't a great CEO, but
and I think he may have picked the wrong franchise too to hold that position.
Hey, he picked a franchise where you had to do a lot of work. Like,
a lot of work.
Think about it.
When you look around and you see like 12 people in the stands, you got to do a lot of work, and there's not a lot of talent on the field.
But think about it like this, right? If you have a certain franchise, let's say he would became part owner of the Texas Rangers, right? They have a history of somewhat winning sometimes. You know, they've had good players. When you're dealing with the Marlins, you know they're going to have a bunch of foreign players that you have to go and basically curate their careers. You have to actually go into these islands and these little small towns and actually put in a bunch of work. Whereas these other teams, they have those kind of farm system type things, but not at the same rate as the Marlins. You're dealing with a team who has unlimited draft picks from curating their own players, then trading them like a Mike Stanton for 6 number 1 draft picks.
They're almost like the minor leagues of Major League Baseball.
Yeah, but then they mess around and win. They won 2, right?
Yeah.
So it's a weird thing. I think you had to really know not saying know the game. You had to put in a lot of work. You can't be a bachelor trying to run the Marlins. You're out there trying to find the next Mike Stanton or the next asset that you can raise to get you 10 more draft picks.
Mm-hmm. True. Steve says Derek produced when it mattered in the playoffs. Jeter had 3,400 hits, not overrated at all.
I think if you look at that, was he all I'm asking, was he ever the greatest? Was he ever the best shortstop in baseball?
I don't think so.
That's all I'm asking. That's all I'm saying. Not over, and I'm saying overrated in the sense if you named the 9 greatest, like if you say, hey, let's pick a all team or whatever, he's not going to be on the top 2 teams. He shouldn't be, but some people would put him there.
True.
I mean, he had some great moments, you know what I'm saying? But I just couldn't do it.
My greatest Derek Jeter moment is the Giambi trying to score and Jeter throws him out with the backhand toss in a position on the field that he should have never been in.
Oh, that's an IQ play. He's an IQ guy.
That's right. He's seeing the game. It's my favorite Derek Jeter moment.